In this video, it's time to fly. We take the A32nx on a full flight from Heathrow International in London to Schiphol Amsterdam, going from cold and dark, gate to gate, setting up the aircraft, flying the departure, the approach and the arrival, and finally shutting down at our destination. So come along and join me in the flight deck, as that's coming up next. Hello some pilots and welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator video. Today we're going flying. As you can see, we're here on the flight deck in the A32nx by FlyByWire. Today we're trying out the experimental version on a short flight from London Heathrow International to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. The aircraft is completely powered down in a cold and dark state, so let's get ready to set everything up and prepare for our flight. The first thing we're going to do is the cockpit preparation. So we're going to start by checking that the parking brake is set, the flaps are up, the spoilers are retracted and disarmed, the weather radar is off, the predictive wind shear is off, engine master switches 1 and 2 are off, engine mode selector is normal, thrust levers are set to idle, landing gear lever is down, and the wipers are off. With that, we can provide the aircraft with power. So let's switch battery 1 and 2 on and connect the external power. Let's turn on some lights, the overhead panel, arm the emergency exit lights, switch on the nav and logo lights, no smoking sign, strobes can go to auto, crew oxygen supply on, set the ADIRS 1, 2 and 3 to nav. Come down to the mode control panel, turn on the lights here, turn on the ECAM displays, turn up the brightness for the primary flight display and the navigation display, and we can do the same on the first officer's side. Over here we can turn on the integral lights, turn up the floodlights. It is quite bright today, so probably not going to need them right now. Let's go ahead and power up the fly pad. Once that's powered up, we can connect our flight plan from SimBrief. So we go from SimBrief and we'll get our flight plan information. There we go, our call sign, Speedbird 430, London Heathrow to Amsterdam. Current weather at our departure and our arrival. We have 7 minutes till the ADIRS are aligned. So let's go ahead and set up our MCDU. First thing we want to do, ATSU, AOC menu, init data request, and that'll pull up our flight plan directly from SimBrief. Speedbird 430. Departure, Echo Golf Lima Lima. Destination, Echo Hotel Alpha Mike. Estimated time on route. Let's go back and load in our fuel. So performance, weight and balance. Here's our fuel, so we can load that in. Block fuel 4920. There it is there, 4940. We can load up our payload. So we go page 2. There's our payload, load payload. We've got 173 passengers today. With that done, we can continue with our MCDU setup. So data, init A, init request, departure and arrival, alternate, flight number, cost index 15, flight level 250, minus 34 degrees at our flight level. It is a short flight, so we're only going to go up to flight level 250. Flight plan. Here is our flight plan. Very short flight. Let's go ahead and set up our departure. So looking at the weather, let's choose our departure runway and our standard instrument departure. So looking at the weather, winds 180 at 3 knots. That's running from north to south, so we'll probably, doesn't matter which runway. Let's bring up our charts, go to our ground chart for Echo Golf Lima Lima. As you can see, the runways run from east to west, so we can choose any runways. We're going to have a crosswind on takeoff. What we're going to do is we're going to choose runway 27 right for departure, as that seems to be the most commonly used runway when the winds don't favor any specific direction. So with runway 27 right chosen, let's choose our departure. So runway 27 right. As you can see, our first waypoint is Brookmans Park VOR. So we're looking for a departure that heads to Brookmans Park VOR. As you can see here on the left hand side, here's all the departures for London Heathrow. So it's most probably going to be one of these. There we go, Brookmans Park 7 Foxtrot is the one we're going to choose. So straight ahead, climbing, right turn to Brookmans Park VOR. So that's going to be our departure. So we're going to insert that there, runway 27 right, departures, Brookmans Park 7 Foxtrot, and there it is there. Since this is a relatively short flight, we're going to just put in the arrival now, as opposed to doing it during our cruise. So coming over to Amsterdam, our last waypoint is Redfa, and if I have a look at the winds for Amsterdam, 170 at 4 knots. So let's look for Amsterdam ground chart to choose a runway that will favor those winds. So airport chart, let's look at the airport diagram. It's probably going to be one of these. So it's probably going to be 18 right, 18 center, 18 left. They most commonly use 18 right. But that's going to give us a long taxi back to the gate. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use 22. That'll give us a short taxi to the gate over here. So let's have a look at what departures favor, so let's have a look at what arrivals favor runway 22. So if we choose the approach, RNAV ILS runway 22, Schiphol transition. It's going to give us that over there. So there's an arrival that gets to Schiphol. So Redfa 1 Alpha. So that's going to be our arrival into Amsterdam. So with that set up, we can go ahead and continue setting up the MCDU. So departure, we said it's going to be runway 27 right. That's going to be the Brookmans Park 7 Foxtrot departure. We're going to insert that. We can't see it on the navigation display yet. Still got 1 minute for the IRS to align. And our arrival, we can program now as well. Our arrival is going to be ILS runway 22. And the arrival is going to be the Redfa 1 Alpha arrival and the Schiphol transition. I'm going to insert that. Give it another 1 minute, we'll check that our flight plan is correct. Let's continue. Secondary flight plan is not yet implemented, so let's go to RadNav and insert some VOR frequencies for situational awareness. So if I bring up our departure, Brookmans Park 7 Foxtrot. If you have a look here, we've got climbing London, 3 DME from London VOR, right turn 4,000 between 5,000 6,000 to Chilton, to direct to Brookmans Park VOR. So we can set in the Brookmans Park VOR in the VOR1 frequency, BKP. Is that correct? That's not correct, is it? BPK, Bravo Papa Kilo. There we go, Brookmans Park, 22 nautical miles away. That seems to be the correct one. And the course to Brookmans Park is going to be radial 244. So 244. There we go. Turn on the VRR1 indicator over there. Okay, that's that done. Looks like our ADERs are aligned, so let's go ahead and check out our flight plan. We go to ARC and we go, what you can do is you can press the right Alt key to bring up your ND, and here we go to the flight plan. We can page through the flight plan to make sure our route looks correct. There's our departure going to Brookman's Park. There's a discontinuity there, so we're going to clear that. There we go. Let's just zoom out a bit. Brookman's Park, continuing across over the channel to Redfur, then Sugal, down overhead Sierra Papa Lima to our approach for runway 22. So with that set up, we can continue with the MCDU setup. So flight plan is done, RadNav is done. In at B page, our zero fuel weight, our block fuel is 4940, so we can actually round it off to 5.0 tons of fuel. Our trip wind for this flight, let's have a look at our SimBrief flight plan. Our average wind component is plus 002, so we got a tailwind of 2 knots. It's not going to make any difference to our flight. Okay, that's in at B setup. Go to our performance page. Transition altitude for our departure is 6,000 feet. Flaps 1 departure. V1 is going to be 130. V rotate 131 and V2 135. So with that, the MCDU is set up. Let's go ahead and continue setting up the rest. So our current QNH, 1014. Turn on the constraints, set that back to 10. Speed we said was 135 for V rotate. Our first altitude constriction was 6,000 feet. That's all set up. Go ahead down here, everything's set up. We can put in an imaginary score code. That's all good, that's all good. So we can get ready for pushback and startup. Overhead panel, start the APU. APU master on. Start the APU. Turn on all the fuel pumps. Turn on the seatbelt signs. Turn on the beacon light. Just make sure all the doors are closed. All the doors are closed. We can release the jetway. And call the tug. Okay, engine mode selector. Start engine master switch 2 on. And 2 spooling up. Set the parking brake. And push back. Start engine number 1. Okay, we have engine 1 started up. Let's go ahead and set flaps 1. arm the speed brakes. Auto brake can be set to max. Runway turn off lights on, nose light set to taxi. We can turn off the APU bleed and turn off the APU master. Let's do a flight control check. Full left, neutral, full right, neutral, full up, neutral, full down, neutral, rudder left, neutral, rudder right, neutral. Okay, let's go ahead and do the before taxi checklist. Auto brake is set to max, spoilers are armed, flaps are set to 1, engine anti-ice is not required, flight controls are checked, pitch trim is set, rudder trim neutral, steering pin been removed. We are ready to taxi. Let's have a look at our taxi route. So we're going to go from here, Charlie, Bravo, all the way down to the end. Maybe we can go here. We'll take an intersection takeoff. We'll see how much traffic is there. If not, we'll go Bravo, Lima, Alpha, Alpha 4. Or we'll go Bravo, Lima, Alpha 5. That's our taxi route. Okay, so release the parking brake. Apply a little bit of throttle to get us rolling. Check the brakes. Brake check's good. Very grey and overcast. Typical London weather. Okay, we'll hold short here at Alpha 2 for 27 right. Set the parking brake. Okay, we'll pretend we've already been cleared for takeoff. So what we'll do is we'll set the transponder to TARA. We'll turn on the predictive wind shear and the weather radar, even though it's in op at the moment. Turn on the landing lights. Okay, before takeoff checklist. Flight controls checked, flight instruments checked, briefing is confirmed, flap settings, takeoff 1, V1, V rotate, and V2 is checked, ATC is cleared as for takeoff, ECAM memo, no blue. Takeoff runway is confirmed 27 right, cabin crew has been advised TCAS is TARA, engine mode selectors as required, and packs are off. Before takeoff checklist complete, release the parking brake and we'll creep up onto the runway. Check that the approach path is clear. So we'll line up with the center line. If I can line up with the center line. Center line, set the brake, start the clock, and let's go. Set power to 40% N1, 40% Toga, SRS runway, forward 60 knots. There's 80 knots, 100 knots, if I can stay on the center line, 120, V1 rotate, Positive rate of climb, gear up. It's 1,500 feet, thrust reduction altitude. Let's set throttles to climb. Turn on the autopilot. Autopilot's activated. There's our green dot speed, it flaps up. Deactivate that. Runway turn off lights go off. Okay, starting our right turn now, as per our departure. Climbing through 4,400 feet for 5,000 feet. Heading up to 250 knots and into the clouds. There's 5,000 feet, which is our first altitude restriction for Chilton, I think it is. No, Chilton, it must be 6,000 feet. Above 1,000, 5,000, and Chilton at 6,000. So we can continue the climb to 6,000 feet. Okay, after takeoff checklist, gear is up and retracted, flaps are retracted, spoilers disarmed, thrust levers are climb, autopilot is on, nose wheel light is off, and runway turn off lights are off. After takeoff checklist complete. Coming up to 6,000 feet, which is our altitude restrictions at Brookmans Park VOR. There is Brookmans Park VOR in the distance. So what we can do now is pretend that HC have given us clearance to continue to our cruising flight level, which is flight level 250, as we pop out of the clouds. So we'll continue to climb now up to 250. Okay, we're about to pass 10,000 feet, so what I can do is turn off the landing lights, turn off the fasten seatbelt signs, and I will see you guys in the cruise. Okay, welcome back to the cockpit, guys. We are currently cruising at flight level 230. I changed it from 250 to 230 as we need to be at 230 by REDFA anyway. So now that we're cruising, it's time for us to brief the arrival. So if I bring up my charts, you can see for our arrival, we got REDFA 1 Alpha. So we need to be below 230 at REDFA. Going to Salute, then the initial approach fix, which is Sugal. So Sugal, we need to be below 10,000 feet. And from there, we'll be joining the ILS for runways 22. So from Sugal, we're going to head to Schiphol VOR, Sierra Papa Lima. Head outbound to the Pampas VOR. Coming around and to join the ILS for runway 22 at 3,000 feet. So we need to plan our descent accordingly. So we need to be at Sugal by 10,000 feet. So if we are currently at 230, if we go here to our calculator, we are currently at flight level 230 and we need to be at 10,000 feet by Sugal. At our current ground speed, we need to descend 41 nautical miles before Sugal, and we are still approximately 120 nautical miles from Sugal. So what we'll do, we'll wait until we are about 50 nautical miles from Sugal and we'll begin our descent down to 10,000 feet. After Sugal at 10,000 feet, I'll bring back the chart, we're going to descend to the Schiphol VOR at flight level 70. and then to Pampas, and then we'll begin our descent down to 3000 to join the ILS for runway 22. So let's set up our arrival. We go to performance, next phase, descent, the approach. Let's put in the approach details. So the current QNH is 1015. Put that in there. Temperature is 20 degrees. The winds 170 at 5. So 170 at 05 knots. Transition altitude is 3000 feet according to the chart. Barrow, our minimums, bring back the chart again. Our minimums for this approach is 186. Decision height is 186 feet, so we can put that in there. 186. So that's that sets up. Let's set up our RadNav page. So as you can see, we've got the ILS frequency, Schiphol 109.5. That's set there in the ILS. We can set in the other VORs for situational awareness. So let's go ahead and put in the Schiphol VOR, which is 108.4. Pampas VOR, which is 117.8. 117.8. We'll stick that in VOR 2 and stick that in there as well. So we'll put that on. So we're still 123 nautical miles away from Sierra Papa Lima. Progress page, we can stick in runway 22, 120 nautical miles away from Amsterdam, runway 22. That is direct distance. Okay guys, welcome back to the cockpit. We are coming up to our waypoint Redfa. That's the beginning of our standard arrival. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin our descent down to Schiphol to be at 7,000 feet. A thrust idle descent. While we're descending, we can go ahead and have a look at our airport chart, so we can see once we've landed runway 22, we'll probably be off at Golf 5, crossing runway 36 right, taxi up Bravo into Alpha 9. We'll park here, somewhere here in the terminal. So that will be our taxi chart once we get. Okay guys, as we're about to pass through 10,000 feet, you can see our descent rate shallows out, so we can slow down to the 250 knot restriction. Once the aircraft gets to 250 knots, we'll continue our descent down to 7,000 feet. So there's 250 knots. Continue the descent. Okay, there we are at Schiphol, 7,000 feet. Right turn to heading 111 to Sierra Papa Lima at 7,000 feet. Okay, there's Sierra Papa Lima. So we can begin our descent down to 3,000 feet. Left turn heading to the Papa Alpha Mike VOR. Current QNH for Schiphol is 1015. We'll set that in as we descend through the transition level. Okay, 10 nautical miles to Papa Alpha Mike. The runway should be just off to our right. Can't see it below the clouds. Okay, about to descend through the clouds, going through 4,400 feet, 220 knots. It's getting a little bit bumpy in the clouds. Okay, we're coming up through the clouds, descending below the clouds, 3,500 feet. The cloud slope is coming in, starting our left turn. And bring the speed down to 200 knots, and I'm going to there's 3,000 feet. There's a little island over there. Activate the approach phase. Activate confirm. On the approach. Set barrow. (1015) set. Here we have the glide slope armed, localizer armed, Cat 3 single approach, barrow 186, approach 131, about to turn onto the final approach. Why are we accelerating like that? Gone back to manage speed. Did that automatically by itself. Slow down again. Did I not arm the approach? I did. Okay, final approach. We are 13 nautical miles out from the runway. Okay, localizer is armed. So the localizer has been captured. Let's set flaps 2. Bring the speed down. Let's see if managed speed is going to work now. Yes, there we go. So there's flaps 2. We can turn on the landing lights, runway turn off lights, and pretend we've been given cleared to land. Landing gear can go down. Okay, glide slope is armed. Let's capture the glide slope. We're beginning our descent. Let's let flaps full. .5 nautical miles away from the runway. On the glide slope, on localizer. Okay, on the spoilers. Okay, before landing checklist, EFIS as required, ND on terrain is currently in up, gear is down and 3 green, stereo lights are on, landing lights on, nose wheel lights on, auto brake is set to medium, spoilers are armed, flaps are full, landing memo, no blue, and we can dig in cabin. Okay, 1,500 feet, 4 nautical miles away, and there is our runway. Thousand feet to go, stable. Okay, 600 feet to go. There's 300 feet, disconnect autopilot.
300. 100 above. 200. Minimum.
Getting a bit low.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
And we're down. Reverses. Reverse idle. Manual braking. And we're going to get off right at the end. And we shall exit the runway here on the right hand side. And we have arrived. Okay, after landing we can clean up the aircraft. So landing lights off, nose wheel lights taxi, we'll start the APU, we will bring up the flaps, disarm the spoilers, turn off the predictive wind shear and the weather radar. TCAS can go to standby and we will taxi to stand. And we will park somewhere up here at the nearest parking bay. Actually, we'll go into this little... So we'll turn here because I see there's an aircraft coming. So actually we'll just park at this first gate here. We'll turn in, lights can go off. See if I can line up with the line. And we will stop here. Okay, thrust idle, set the parking brake. Airbags can all go off, that can go off, that can go off. FCU, flight directors 1 and 2 can go off and off and off there. Navigation display, arc, 10 nautical miles, anti-ice is already off. The APU is already available, so we can put the APU bleed on. Engine master 1 and 2 can go off. Fuel pumps. Hope you guys enjoyed the flight. Thanks for coming along. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing for the next one, and I will see you guys then. Thanks for watching.